open up a sheet and cool. Okay, awesome. And then I will take notes here with my trusty Google Sheets. Questions. Okay, let's give people another minute,
Mhm.
then we can be good to go. While I'm doing that, let me set up my two-screener so that I can take notes and pay attention.
And yeah, just for reference, Nigel, I'm going to
Yeah,
keep chat closed because I have a bad tendency to try to split brain between chat and the slides, and then my brain does a hiccup. So
yeah,
if
no
you've
worries.
got anything that comes up that's more urgent to answer, definitely ping me and let me know. Well, we're
Sounds
still
good.
kind of rolling people in, so I'm going to give it just another second here, and then
Sounds good. We have a good tag team to go then. Okay, chat. Lay it on me. Please drop in your questions in the chat. I'll be taking down notes. If there are burning questions, then I'll interrupt play. But let's try to put all the questions at the end, and then we can go through it one by one as well. Details on pets. Okay, let me put that down. Details on pets.
yeah, so there are definitely things that we're not going to be going into full details in because they're in the process of being developed. Standard process of, we've got some high levels of information we've shared across both guilds and pets. We've got a little bit more detail to go into on the guilds front, but pets being Act 3, the focus of today's town hall is going to be on stuff that's coming in Act 2. And we will get to pets. We're just not there quite yet. All right, I am going to kick things off. For those of you who are new to the mix, I'm Chris Clay, but everyone calls me Clay, game director for Guild of Guardians. And yeah, going to be here to answer some questions and give an update on just, where Guild of Guardians is at. We have made it through Act 1, basically the launch of GOG, and oh boy, was it a launch. From my experience in games, it was pretty standard, a good amount of chaos, a whole bunch of fixes, server maintenance downtimes, and for us internal team getting into rhythm, both internal here at Immutable and with MindLoader on exactly how we run Guild of Guardians in live operations. What we're going to do just with Act 1 to kick things off is check in a little bit on the game's engine, look at some initial numbers, talk a little bit about Tamamo sale and sort of communication and expectations moving forward. On the numbers front, mobile and games in general is a retention game. You need players for things to work, and players drive everything from the economy to just the enjoyment of the game itself. Particularly in a game like Guild of Guardians, where a lot of it is focused on competition. We've got some comparable here across the spectrum. Some of our competitors, Raid Shadow Legends is one. The key number that we're going to be looking at here is day 30 retention. But day 1 up to day 30 all matter. We've got Heroes Wars Alliance as well, and then Epic 7. So this is sort of a spread. In a perfect world, your retention is going to be looking much closer to Epic 7. That 40 plus D1 retention and getting on towards that day 30, 10% retention is kind of the ideal. But I wanted to set a standard too of like, these are games that I'm sure you have seen ads for if you have done anything on any social media platform, from Instagram to Reddit. Um, you know, Raid Shadow Legends in particular has ads everywhere. Um, right now, we're kind of sitting in between Hero Wars and Raid Shadow Legends, and it's a good place to be. Uh, and it's a little bit tale of two devices. So on iOS, we're sitting a lot closer to uh, where Raid Shadow Legends is. We're not quite at 40% D1 retention, and this is one of the key challenges that we're going to be addressing in the product, in the coming months. As I'll talk about that a little bit. And then D30 at 5.5, not quite at the 6%, we would want to be at to be comparative with Raid Shadow Legends, but in a solid spot. This is in a range that you can absolutely run a game successfully in. On Android, a little bit higher on D1 at the moment, but this is trending lower, and there are a lot of reasons for this. Some of it comes down to where we're marketing. One of the hypotheses we'll be testing in the coming months is how localization impacts the retention numbers as well. But where we're hurting the most on Android is in that D30 retention. At 3.58%, it is not great. It's still workable, but this is a number that we need to raise. And one of my big goals for the product over the next 4 months is to get the D30 retention much closer or above that 6% across both device types. So far, since launch, we've had a little over 600K in downloads. We've got 250K monthly active users, which is solid. We're past that first month, so a lot of this is people who have tried the game, just in the past month and not necessarily stuck. But we're getting a good number of people into the top of the funnel, and this is allowing us to analyze the data and look at places that we need to further improve. And we've got 13,427 monthly active buyers. So these are people who are playing the game and going in and participating in the Web3 ecosystem in a few key ways. Essentially, though, it's um, uh, people who have purchased something in the immutable ecosystem. Secondary purchase, buying a Guardian from another player. If they've bought Ascension Seals, if they've purchased Tamamo, anything that counts as that player, buying something in the ecosystem turns them into a monthly active buyer. And this is a place that we're actually in really good shape across like the Web3 ecosystem overall. We're driving more players into being active on ZKVM and Immutable than a lot of other products out there in the space. But it's something that we're going to dive into in a little bit more detail. Did want to talk a little bit about Tamamo. I would say that the economy team had a lot of theories, and I would say Tamamo sale taught us a whole lot about how not to do things with the sale. It has not gone well. You can go look at the sale page numbers. There were miscommunications across our internal team and MindLoader in terms of offerings. I know this was discussed in the AMA on Friday, but this is a place that I'm working with the team to refactor. So some of the initial plan was a schedule of basically every 2 weeks shifting things through. On the Web3 side of things, we're going to be putting a pause as we take time to step back, look at what went right, which there isn't a ton, except the system's working, what went wrong, and what we need to do effectively to meet player needs, because that is how sales work. What are the things in the system that are meeting the needs of the players? Tamamo obviously didn't. We're doing some little bits in between before the sale ends, but the next likely point to pick up a sale would be mid-August at the moment. But yeah, Tamamo. Um, Communication and updates. So, one of the things that came through in the AMA were a number of comments on comms. And, on this front, we've got a lot of challenges. Obviously, Ryan left at launch, and not having a full-time community manager, particularly one like Ryan, who is really engaged, has left some big shoes to fill. And we've had people, from the team popping in, but it's not the same as having someone essentially dedicated to it. We are actively hiring for this role replacement. Finding somebody who's going to fit the bill is challenging because community is a hot spot in the market right now. Like everyone realizes the importance of it, but we'll keep you posted on that front. I think in my understanding of how launch went, being on site at MindLoader, being in Discord, seeing issues, addressing them quickly. Like we were able to address a number of issues across the product remarkably fast. However, we went for speed rather than clear comms. And this is a place that we're really going to be shifting in the coming weeks. This is some of why last week's deployment of new features was delayed to this week, so we could get clearer patch notes across. We're getting that process ironed out with MindLoader. So essentially, Monday, we did a second playtest of the build, went through all the patch notes, and confirmed that each of the fixes was working as intended. Went through, improved the English on all of the patch notes, and we should be improving on that front as well. What this means too is we're aiming for a weekly cadence of updates. So essentially on Wednesdays, when we're in between the events in their various seasons, during that downtime, that weekly maintenance, we'll be doing basically a bulk of updates from new features to fixes to modifications and changes. And what we're really trying to make sure is that for those patch notes, if a change is happening, it is documented so players are across everything that's changing in the game. Um, this will also avoid confusion around things like exclusive equipment coming out of the store. The other challenges that we've had is sort of just-in-time approvals. So there are things that we want to do, let's say for leaderboards, for the monthly leaderboards, and we've got the plan in place. We want to communicate it, but there are multiple steps in the chain, and one of those key steps is working with the foundation to get approvals for GOG distributions for rewards. The place that I'm working with the foundation on is essentially pre-approving uh, months in advance at this point. They have been uh, much more isolated in the scope of what they're approving us for. We're trying to get this sorted so that we can have a much clearer roadmap of what's coming down the line. The fact that we were announcing rewards after the start of the season is not acceptable and something I'm going to work really hard with the team to make sure that we don't run into again. Um, I think too, when it comes to the comms front, you sort of pre-launch versus launch workloads. Like pre-launch is obviously an intense period of time. You're developing all of these systems, but post-launch is even more intense. And this is one of those things that with live operation games, it takes people time to settle into. And this is the first live operation games for a number of people on the team. And we've been working with them and MindLoader to get into this cadence. And it has strained comms. Essentially, we've got a marketing team that pre-launch, a lot of their focus was in inwards on the community. Now we're focusing a lot of that attention outwards to bring players in through the funnel. And finding that right balance, particularly with Ryan out, has been difficult. Um, where we're going, so yeah, slowing down the changes, essentially making sure that we've got those clear notes and processes. Obviously, emergency maintenance may still happen. A lot of the information around emergency maintenance will be still going through the in-app communication. We will try to have announcements across, but the focus is going to be on the app for comms there. The other thing that we're looking for is things like with Town Hall. A lot of it is, do you know what's coming down the line? So it's something that we've had in the past for other games I've worked on, but getting a regular cadence and calendar set up for things like Town Hall. So it's something that people know is coming rather than it having being an open question like with this one. Cool. Well, that's a little bit of a rundown on Act 1. Now we're going into Act 2. So what are we going to talk about on there? So we're going to talk a little bit about tomorrow's release, NFT avatar integration, guild power trees, and guild quests. And then I'm going to dive into a chunk of what's in development. So special events, guild boss, guild crafting and artifacts, some quality of life improvements, and just a brief touch on localization. When it comes to like guild boss and guild crafting and artifacts, we are not at the point yet where we're going to release an article detailing all of these. We're still working through some of the design challenges. I am going to talk a little bit on the artifacts front. a key challenge we're having across just where we're at with marketplaces, ZKVM, and legal on the artifact sale front. And this will be a part where I'll pause and chat a bit with the community on what's going on there to see if we're heading in a direction that people think will work. So yeah, guild power trees. This has been on the docket for a while, but this is getting additional guild utility. The system is pretty straightforward. Essentially, there is a pair of trees that provide general guild utility and then a bit of guardian power. The tree unlocks through guild level, so to get to the top of the tree, you need to level your guild more. Obviously, mythic guilds have an advantage here. They can have more people donating to level up the guild faster. As players donate, you unlock currency to also level up each individual node on the tree. For the guild power tree for basically general utility, we've got guild donation reward increases, time spent on guild quest reductions, guild quest reward increases, guild shop price decreases, crafting energy regen increases, inventory energy increases, and guardian XP gain increases in that tree. For the guild, basically power trees, for in like guardian power, we've got increases to guardian attack, defense, and HP. Trees for imperial keepers and redeemers that increase guardian HP, def, and attack. And then at the very end, favor of Eldarim, basically adventure energy limit increases, which will increase the cap of adventure energy that people in the guild can have. I would caution that these are subject to change on balance. It's going to be something that we're going to look closely at in terms of how guilds are changing them. We're not going to change these, without talking through with the community what's going on. But it's a first crack at it. I think Monoliter has done a good job of setting out the tree. And I would say that these are where it starts. These are something that we can extend beyond, but a good first crack. Guild quests. So this is essentially a dispatch system. So each quest has up to 6 different tiers of difficulty. The higher tiers have higher requirements on your guardians and then higher corresponding rewards of primarily guild tokens. The rewards out of the system are something that I think we're going to experiment with in the weeks and months to come. Essentially with the system, each quest has a set of needs, so number of epic guardians in this case, along as a domain for each of those epic guardians to be able to dispatch onto the quest. They've got the guild token rewards, and then a bonus reward depending on the star level of the guardians. Radiant guardians increase the reward as well, and with additional systems coming in, one of the things we're going to keep an eye on is just overall engagement time in the app. So it is set up, if you've got a strong collection of guardians, you can essentially hit auto dispatch and they will go off and go on their quests. This does not take your guardians out of sort of rotation. You can still use them. Wait, I didn't test that. I didn't make sure that that's true, that if they're auto-dispatched, they can still be used in regular dungeon play. I'm like 99% sure, but I will double check that. Upcoming next week, we're going to have our first special event. I know a little bit about this has been shared. Essentially, the restriction on this is it's for rare guardians. And this is beginning of a cycle of special events. It's going to be a place for us to experiment with the in-game systems, try on different approaches, see what the community likes, see what are the most engaging, and potentially take some of those learning back into the core systems. So this first rare event is endless. The biggest change is it is not cumulative scoring like the current endless, but it is rather the top score. So similar to Boss Rush, your highest scoring run in building blocks of the endless will be attributed to the leaderboard. This this is just a fun feature in general because it really does open up a realm of possibilities. I would say to the community, if you've got ideas for what you think would be a fun, special event, definitely reach out and let us know. If some of the things we've got on the docket to come are things like esports special events to help highlight the esports guardians, as that's a long-term promise to come. Um, some of these may cycle depending on their popularity. I think some of the thought behind the rare event is it opens up more possibility for players who are getting into the game to have an ability to compete. We'll see how true that is. I think equipment is going to play a pretty big role in delineating how far people go. Um, but yeah, we're going to run this and learn and go for there. It will run for 1 week at start. Cool. Yeah, the road ahead. Some of it when I talked at the beginning about D1 retention, we're going to be doing a lot of A/B testing on incoming cohorts. And in many of these cases, it's searching for just small percentages, like a change that improves retention in a cohort by 1%, by 0.5%, and running as many of these A/B tests as possible to load up those cumulative changes to improve the funnel. For the July 3rd build, we're testing 3 things. I've only got 2 of them here. One is adding during loading screens little just in-game tips and an animation of Leah running across the bottom. We have had feedback from multiple venues, including like internal playtesting and external playtesting that we've done, saying that people are confused about whether the game has crashed during loading, not having a loading bar. So we're going to see how this does. And depending on whether it succeeds or not, the succeeding test will be pulled in, and then we'll queue up another set of tests. Another one, let's see if this goes, is we've had a lot of feedback on the little hand animator just being too simple. So we're doing a test where essentially half of the cohort will see the animating hand guiding them through the game, the other the existing static hand, and we'll see where it goes. The last is largely based off of analytics on Android and drop-off points, where some of the videos in the tutorial with like the tutorial boss and Leah, the performance has been suffering on some Android devices. So we're doing an experiment where those videos are removed. And again, we'll see what happens and go with what sticks. After the July 3rd update, the next major update in Act 2 that we're working on is the Guild Raid Boss event. This will allow guilds to start running the guild raids and accruing resources to do crafting in. So it'll be a first step on that path. Essentially, the guild will unlock the guild raid boss. There will be weekly bosses. Each guild member will contribute to attacking. The aim is to kill the boss and then distribute crafting resources to the guild. Players need to participate in order to be eligible for crafting rewards. Obviously, when this launches, that won't be a part of it. And because we won't have crafting just yet, but that's sort of the order. Like if you've got people who are just idling in the guild, if they haven't contributed to the creation of artifacts, they wouldn't be labeled as a creator on that artifact. And an internal guild leaderboard to basically see who is contributing the most. We'll get a full, write-up on this as we get more of the development in action with MindLoader and screens start coming online, so we can walk you all through that. We're just not quite there yet to share. And then after that, it's going to be coming to guild crafting and artifacts. This is largely exactly along the lines that we've shared in the past. The guild resources will be used by the guild to craft artifacts. These artifacts will be NFTs that players can equip to their guardians to enhance their stats, similar in some ways to exclusive equipment, with the added bonus of enhancing leaderboard rewards. The key thing I want to talk about today is way back when, in the days of yore, with the distribution of rewards, the plan had been that essentially the guild sells the artifact, and there is a distribution out to all of the players that contributed, with the guild leader getting an assured cut. Where we're at right now, as we've worked through functionality on ZKVM, with legal, just on our ability to hold basically sales in escrow, is we want to propose to the community a trustful system where essentially the guild is trusting the guild leader to distribute artifact sales. This means each guild could have its own rules for distribution, top players going to the guild that makes the most sense for their contributions to matter. This is a change, though, from that initial, like, immutable is going to handle everything. The good news with going this approach is it means we can get the system out faster. The downside, obviously, is it means, yeah, a guild leader could essentially like work for an artifact, sell it, and then not share it with the guild. We do believe that's self-correcting, though. Right now, if your guild leader is being a jerk and not distributing rewards, obviously people can leave the guild and go join another. So we feel like there could be a moment that this could happen. From my experience with like MMORPGs, where this is most likely to happen is if the guild artifacts basically stacked up and a guild leader was able to sell a whole bunch in one go. Um, but I don't think that that would happen. So yeah, it's not that there wouldn't be rewards for players, but the guild leader is determining what that split would be. We can obviously, add additional things into the mix. We can add systems that allow the guild leader to easily distribute out to the guild. But yeah, happy to chat through.
Cool. Do you want to go through the questions now, Clay, or are there
No,
more
I'm not
slides
done.
that you
I'm
want to
more
go?
just like looking at general feedback, and like this isn't something we have to solve today. It's something that
Hmm.
we can schedule time to pop back into with guild leaders on, and maybe it deserves its own chat. Um,
Yeah, from the look of it, I think it's definitely getting a lot of opinions from the chat. Like, are there gonna be like a way to rate guilds, if they're good or not, etc. So I think it's a really interesting topic for the community.
yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have bad actors in the system. Uh, you know, yeah, it's complicated. I feel like when it comes to the guilds at the moment, particularly the most advanced, like their reputation and their strength is their players, and like guilds with the best players are going to be able to take down the bosses more effectively, craft more resources. So there is like a inherent incentive. I think the other side on the transparency front, like it's blockchain, so it's not like any of this could be hidden. Some of it will depend on the sale of the artifact. I guess the thing I should make clear too is in the metadata on the artifact, once the artifact is sold, any sort of like secondary residuals that get split out will be based on the metadata. So that's automated. That's something that we can do more easily through a smart contract when it comes to like that royalty split on future sales. It's just that initial sale that's really the problem from a technical standpoint. And I think, like as Mythic is pointing out, like there could be guilds that's like, hey, just for being a member of the guild, like everyone gets an equal cut. That could be it. Or it could be, guild leader gets full share, vice leader gets double share, new players, like based on their rankings, get quarter share. There's a whole bunch of systems that I could see evolving from this, and I do see it as something that could be a major differentiator, just in how the guilds work. Some guilds may not want to sell them at all. Instead, keep them within the guild itself. There's a lot of possibility space. Um, it's also something that doesn't have to be forever. Where if we launched with this system and we're finding there is a lot of abuse, uh, then yeah, um, you know, totally doable. I would say on the chat front, I don't have a timeline on it right now, but I'm having Milo look at it again. What it would take to get guild chat in. Still a little bit hesitant for global chat. Every game that I've been in with global chat on mobile is a dumpster fire, but it's a possibility. Um, cool. Yeah, I'm getting the general vibe. I'm gonna come back to this topic. It's not finally decided yet, but I think the important thing is I'm not seeing any like this couldn't possibly work, and it does open up some interesting possibilities as well. Um, I'll uh, I'll revisit. We just got a lot to cover, many more slides, so I will go ahead. Thank you so much for the feedback, folks. Um, go. The other thing that we've got a lot in store is quality of life improvements. So there are any number of things that are little frustrations in the game that we want to make better. For this week, there is a battle stats button in the last adventure room. We've increased the size of UI elements in the dungeon select menu. We've got a lot of feedback on that one in particular that people are having trouble reading them. The curse animation can now be tapped to skip, and then curse choices can now be skipped for 200 dungeon coins. Um, I'm not going to say that I'm 100% committed to this one staying around forever, but I'm really looking forward to the experiment. Guardians now take less time to walk into dungeon rooms, so we've essentially shortened the entrance animation, which allows you to go through endless dungeons more quickly and dungeons in general. We've removed the final hit animation for everything but boss rooms. Um, Obviously, the way Endless is set up right now doesn't make a big change, but in Adventure, this is going to speed things up. And then we've added on to what the Vice Leader can do. So appointing members to the different levels, removing members, adding guild announcements, and changing the guild flag. Some things that are on the docket in development right now. We're looking at rebalancing curses that have immunity to be changed to a percentage. We think that immunity in general is just too binary. Some of the hope with the immunity, and it was somewhat successful on, is it makes it very difficult for bots because a mistap could lead to the end of a run. But just some of the gameplay that it added was too black and white. So we're going to experiment with that change. We're looking at arena matchmaking and iterating on that front. I can say from my arena play, essentially it's uh, wait on refreshes until I can clear out a full slate. That usually levels me up to the point where I then have to wait around and get attacked until I can refresh once my rating has dropped to do it again. We're looking at changing it so that there are more people that will be sort of your level of power. It escalates too fast right now, and it makes it too hard. With Arena as well, we're looking at changes. I did not know this, and I guess a little bit of like information right now is if you really stare at the smoky portraits, you can kind of make out the Guardian behind it. I thought they were just a generic icon. I didn't realize they were actually obscuring the icon itself. So we're looking at what we want to do with that system, potentially just showing the team you're facing. UX improvements across forward fusing scrolling and combat stats, just looking at improving UX across the board. a more precise Guardian leveling UX. So right now, you can auto level to basically spend all of your scrolls. You can tap to add a scroll at a time or tap and hold to like rapidly add scrolls. But this is looking at something where it's like, hey, level my Guardian 5 levels just to give people more precision. Um, Improvements to merging overall, like this is something when it came to like tapping to generate resources, we've improved that. But merging still has a bit of lag. This is because it is confirming with the server that you can. Um, we're looking at keeping the safety of not trusting the client there, but improving the responsiveness in the client, as well as some potential auto merge options. We're revamping the daily logins, both for the 7-day and for the 28, looking at moving that to 30, and then a lot of performance optimizations on Android. Um, a big one for me this cycle, so obviously retention is going to be a focus. There's a lot of just in the game changes that we're going to be iterating through, both through A/B testing and quality of life to get us there. But a key part is GOG staking and utility. So I'm working on specs right now to work with our game integrations team on getting staking up off the ground on zkVM for GOG. And at its core, this is the white paper. You stake your GOG, the 20%, sorry. Uh, little human moment in the mix. One of the reasons town halls have been a little bit delayed is I had a rather severe case of COVID, and as many of you know, I've got a pretty encyclopedic knowledge of all things GOG, GU, and immutable, but I have some of the memory delinking, and not everything is recalling as perfectly as usual. I just hit one of those 20% rev share on GOG. Um, Staking will enable that. But one of the things that I want to add into the system is utility for staking to expand it beyond just that sort of monetary component. And essentially have staking GOG be something similar to like VIP systems you see in standard Web 2 games, where based on the amount of GOG you have stake, you have in-game utility benefits. Working on exactly what those would be, but some of the things that I've got on uh, the table are things like, uh, bonuses to what you're getting out of sacrifices. So additional faction souls, additional radiant souls, potentially reductions to like ascension steel costs, increased chance to radiance your guardians. Like there's a lot of room in the mix to have the staking system be something that is really enticing to just everyday players to come in and get involved with the GOG staking ecosystem. Obviously, getting GOG locked up is important because it does add to the stability and value of the token overall. It's going to be several months before there. Um, so yeah, I do think this is going to help a lot with the overall ecosystem. Obviously, we have to build it and get it there. So I think some of it, like Mythic Chef, in terms of like paying with GOG, like uh, it's harder than it should be because you've got to swap things. Some of it is when it comes to like GOG, like it's revenue. So when something is purchased from us for GOG, it goes back into the ecosystem because we will resell it, back onto the market. It's not that we buy things and then we just hold all of that GOG. Obviously, if we were holding all the GOG that came in through purchasing things, it would be different. But there's no net change when it comes to purchasing things with GOG in terms of the flow of the token. Um, I wish it was different, but that's the way it is. Cool, cool.
Uh,
Um,
as for the questions, Clay, are you in the spreadsheet?
uh, I have a bunch of things from the spreadsheet already typed out, so we'll go through those and then take questions sort of at the end
Okay,
from things you've
cool.
gathered for chat. Um, yeah, in terms of endless engagement times, the question is the endless with 1-1 tickets permanent or just temporary? And it is just a temporary solution. Um, the goal was to, reduce overall engagement time in endless. 4-day, I can attest myself was grueling. It was a lot of playtime. So this takes it down to 2 runs a day. It's better, and it is a solution that's sort of carrying us through to the next iteration. The next iteration is actually potentially less. So essentially, what it would be is uh, you can bid multiple tickets for an endless run. So in theory, you could spend 4 tickets to do 1 run. It 4x's the point totals. It 4x's the endless coin rewards, um, and means it's just 1 run a day, which is very maintainable. The cost benefit is it means if for some reason you have a 4x run that goes poorly, uh, it averages out to, less total rewards, but it's more time efficient. I think it's a pretty good system. There is a bit of work there. We are not testing this yet in terms of just where it's at in development. And like one of the key challenges is with the ticketing system, we now need you to be able to get up to 4x tickets without being able to carry them over, because then you could have 4x tickets, carry them over into the next week potentially and get a head start. It's a solvable problem, but it's one of the things that we need to get through. I think it's going to be a good change. We'll see how that rolls and go from there. Endless coins. Why can I earn more grinding novice? So this is not intended. Um, we made a change to the endless token system to increase endless coins from the higher difficulties, but it didn't make up the gap. Some of that is players could get further into novice than was initially intended. So people were diving more deeply, which let them get above. For the July 3rd update, we're refining this further. So endless coin earning for novice is decreasing, and all the other tiers is further increasing. Essentially, where I want it to be, and we're going to have to look at the data after this next run, is yeah, like novice was supposed to basically kick you out after 50. Um, that was the design we had worked out with Mind Loaders. The fact that you were able to get that deep was completely unintended. Um, the goal here, though, is you basically want to get to the next tier, so you can unlock higher endless coin rewards. Um, Web2 guilds. Why are you intending to create Web2 guilds? Just increase the utility of Web3 guilds and push players to Web3. I think this is generally a misconception that you can force players into Web3. Um, there are plenty of games out there testing that theory right now. I, I think Web2 guilds are a tool in our overall autonomy toolkit to basically take players through. Yeah, if you've got a Web2 guild that gets people started on the path, but then you have to go purchase an adventurers guild to really effectively participate in the Web3 ecosystem. Um, it guides players along the journey, gets a group of people together who perhaps want to work together to go buy a guild token to advance. Um, it's not something that is releasing anytime soon. I think we've got enough guilds at the moment to handle our current player base. So there's not a strong need for this other than that sort of guiding path. And yeah, like having founder guilds craft lower tier guild, totally plausible in how the system would work. Um, Guild tokens and economy. So adventure tokens cost 150 to mint, whereas a mythic token was 80k to mint. Will there be much benefit or value provided to these token holders? Will there be reasonable incentives to attract players to join the 80k guild while also still giving a good experience for all guilds? I mean, in short, the higher tier guilds can have more players. More players will allow crafting more artifacts. A lot of it's going to come down to the artifact economy, how maintainable it is, what the demand is for artifacts. That's not something that we can dictate. It is something that we have a key influence on, and we'll keep experimenting with it. I mean, obviously, it's a goal, um, but we shall see. Theory crafting. This was a really interesting one for me. Can we get a test mode in game to do friendly PvP matches with guild members and friends? This would also be a nice way to be able to test and theory craft our heroes, which is a big part of games like this. This is certainly plausible, and I love what it does to the ecosystem. Doing it right to basically have validated outputs is a bit of work, um, but I like what this does. This opens up, yeah, the ability for having tournaments where players can run them. I think it would be really, 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 really good for GOG. This is not on the roadmap yet. This is essentially Clay saying, "I really like this and what it does." Um, so uh, we'll take it from there. Essentially, TLDR, I've got to turn this into what we call a PRD, a design that then I take through to MindLoader. It's something that wouldn't necessarily replace existing roadmap items. A lot of those are promises that we have to get to, but it's something I really would like to do. And MindLoader is really fast at some things. Who knows? This might be one of them. Squad switching. Are you going to implement a system so that we don't always have to switch to different Guardians, resetting them, leveling gear, and other ones for doing different game modes, especially in Arena where you get punished when switching, it feels bad. Can confirm the feels bad when switching in Arena. Um, Guardian leveling is an area we're analyzing the data and feedback from players on. We're kind of in the inverse of where we were during regional test launch, where commander level was the gate. Now, we fixed that for global launch, but XP is the primary gate. And it really is just limiting people down to having 5 primary guardians. That isn't the goal for the game. We wouldn't have 10 slots if we intended to just have 5 primary. What we're doing now, though, is looking at the overall economy ecosystem advancement to come up with solutions to this. We've got different um, different things we need to solve. One is catch up. So for players joining today, they're obviously coming up on 2 months behind everybody else. How do we give them a path to compete at the top? For people who are playing now, what do we need to do to unstick some of the key, like I would say, grind points? Right now people are getting stuck in World 3, myself included. I'm trying to put I'm trying the dolphin path right now just to see how that plays out while we've got other people playing the whale path. And yeah, right now I feel like World 3 really is a sticking point. We're looking at all of this. We'll have more information on what is actually going to come out of this, but it's something that we're well aware of and working on. Energy booster. Any plans on improving the energy booster? Um, this was not quite so kindly worded, so I shortened it. But when it comes to leaderboard tickets, we need to ensure that the energy booster doesn't provide an unfair advantage. So this is why, like, if the energy booster provides it for free, you can still purchase it with rubies. I think in general with rubies, we're finding that players have a fairly large store of these. They, the cycle we had expected was more people summoning guardians with rubies, ascending them, sacrificing them for faction souls and otherwise. But what we're seeing is people holding on to a good store of rubies. So this advantage isn't providing the advantage we expected. When it comes to crafting energy, adventure energy regen and caps, it's certainly something we're open to experimenting with. In this next update, the crafting cap from the energy token goes to plus 14, which brings you to 99 crafting energy. This was a change to make it easier to just use 3 of the potions in a go. Adjusting this down the line, absolutely plausible. If people have suggestions on this front that they think would fit in well to the energy token, absolutely happy to take feedback on that. I did see Teo's. I'm happy with my energy token as well. One of the things we're looking at and talking with um, the Apple folks on is, where where links out keep us out of breach. What information can we have that pushes people, to discover more of the Web3 aspects while making sure the apps stay on the stores? Uh, it's a back and forth. But yeah, like linking out to things like the energy token, getting one of the things that the Immutable team is working on, in-game marketplaces will make it easier to discover. There's a lot of challenges on mobile to sort all of those out, but it's things that we're working on. Retread of guild tags. Can we get guild tags implemented? The biggest challenge here is just character limits. So in terms of spacing, text spacing is always at a premium. To have guild tags be meaningful, we would almost certainly, where names are listed, end up with dot dot dots. Names would be foreshortened. One of the thoughts I had on this front is, would guild emblems on leaderboards, you know, scratch the itch? If so, totally plausible. Something I would talk with the MindLearner team on. Cool. Yeah, closing thoughts. We'll go into Q&A. Yeah, closing thoughts, I guess. We'll bop back to this for a moment. Definitely been an intense stretch here for the team, and I know for the community. Overall in crypto at the moment, we're, I would say, more in a bear state than a bull. I think, one of the key things that's happening on the immutable ZKVM ecosystem is we're starting to see a lot of other games launch. And there's momentum building that Guild of Guardians was a fair bit of leading the way. Um, as more of these games launch and go live, I do see that flywheel starting to turn. And so much of crypto is momentum. It is like feeling and emotion. And I know I'm pretty excited about where things are going, both for Immutable and GOG. We're going to see a lot of changes over the course of this next cycle, both to the economy and the ecosystem across GOG and the game itself. It's going to be an interesting set of town halls in the coming months as we get going. One thing I did want to, share, just because, on the comms front, I'm a big player in that overall mix. I'm going to be out the last 2 weeks of July, which will put some strain on comms, just so that people are aware. I need a little bit of downtime. COVID and launch took a lot out of me. I'm mostly back to myself, but getting some downtime in July, and I do believe I've got things queued up across the team that will be in a good place while I'm out. But that will let me come back refreshed for a really big push into the end of the year. But yeah, Nigel, you got some Q&A for me.
Okay, yes. If you are in the spreadsheet, what I've done is I've categorized the questions to roadmap, guild questions, GOG utility, quality of life, marketing, and just general feedback. And then I've also bolded the questions that have been upvoted a lot. I mean, a lot. So please
All
take a
right.
moment to scan through, and then feel free to answer the ones
Oh,
that
so
you think are
these are
most
all in
important.
the spreadsheet?
Yes, in the town hall questions. I can share you the link in Slack as well.
Yeah,
Give me one second.
I've got it.
You got it? Okay.
What tab?
The town hall. It's at the very
Gotcha.
end.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through these. Some of these are quick hits. So details on pets coming. They'll be in a future town hall. Yeah, future town hall. The next town hall, I'll probably be able to go into more details on where the design and everything is at. Will guild gear be coming by Act 2? If you mean artifacts, yes. It'll be within an Act 2. There is a chance that Act 2 is going to stretch out a little bit longer. Yeah, we had set a date for Act 3 that may have been too ambitious, but we'll keep you posted on that front. Talked at a high level on guild raids. Gear as NFTs. So this is something that we should probably dive into more completely. Um, Gear as NFTs, like just regular gear, uh, I've got concerns about what it will do to the game as a whole. Uh, I think as I've seen the overall economy churn, like adding more NFTs into the mix, I think is definitely plausible. But it is something that I would want to do quite carefully. I really don't think it's necessarily helpful for, like right now there are no restrictions on gear. But like if a day one player can have, tier 7 gear that they bought off the marketplace, that definitely throws a whole bunch out of the whack with the game itself. Um, but yeah, it would be something that would have to, I think, craft through guilds if we stick to the original white papers. I think it would be easier for individual players, but plausible. Uh, Frostmire. Let me grab roadmap really quick because I can't remember the date right off the top of my head. I'll give you a general timeline. Uh, so right now we've got Frostmire slated for the end of September at the moment, but that is open to change. Um, the ability to reset equipments to upgrade. This is one I can take back to MineLoader. Other than just like salvaging them, the approach with equipment has generally been salvage, but I can understand how for the exclusive equipment you would want to keep it around. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a note. Play to take to MineLoader. What is the hero level cap? So this basically gets adjusted usually during the weekly updates. So it's based off of the commander level. So the commander level will be updated this update to 100. And I cannot remember what that relates to Guardian level off the top of my head. So I'll have to get back on that one. Is Karkuk getting a nerf on his immunity? I haven't seen that come through as a suggested change on my plate. Yeah, anytime we're making a change of that level to a Guardian, it's tough. With relation to like immunity versus percentages, I think generally my lean is towards percentages rather than flat out immunity, but there's no plans that like not in this July 3rd update at least. Down the road, could it happen? Potentially. With any of the Founders Guardians, though, really careful with adjustments on that front. May I ask why you do structure the leaderboard rewards in a way whereby the top rank gets almost the same as rank 20? I mean, some of it is, the top 20 ranks are all putting in a ton of effort. Yeah, the difference, between them uh, in terms of what they put in is pretty close. Scores are pretty close. What I would say though on leaderboard rewards is this is something that we're going to continually experiment on. Some of what we look at, with the leaderboard rewards is, how they flow. Um, you know, with this current season, we had gone deeper. Some of that is looking to get players into the overall ecosystem. If we get GOG in players' hands, particularly some of the amounts that players further down the leaderboard are getting, like it makes sense for them to potentially go buy something off the marketplace with them. You get them started to buy Ascension seals. We're gonna have to see how that goes. One of the things I'm talking with the economy team on for the next season of leaderboards is being more top heavy, and again, running that experiment and see what it does. So I would say there isn't going to be a set, leaderboard that you can count on. This is something that we're going to change month to month and try and hone in on the best approach. Can we reset guild power skills? Not at the moment. They are, you spend the coins and they're there. But yeah, we could see. For dispatching, do Guardian levels matter? Otherwise, no, Guardian levels do not matter. Just their rarity, their domain, and then for the bonus awards, their enlightenment level. Can we view the guild raid to view what went well or wrong? This is one of those where I don't quite grok the question. Once we've got the system up and playable and I can get my hands on, because there's always a change from where you're on paper to what it actually plays. I'll get more screens out to the community to just clarify a lot of what's going on there. I'd like to see gear NFTs that only come from guild crafting. So this is similar to the question above of plausible, but not currently planned, and something we'd have to do carefully. Will there be balance changes soon to in-battle statistics? Currently disbanding DPS counters any other build too well. Um, hmm. I'm not sure I completely agree with this. Obviously, at the end of the day, if things are dead, they can't kill you back. When it comes to balance, we're working with Superpower on both individual Guardian balance, rune balance, equipment balance. So I would expect changes on this front, but nothing for July 3rd. Will crafting solely use the GOG token? So this remains uh, a challenge just with the app itself. So guild crafting will happen within the app, which means that we can't consume GOG token directly. If there is consumption, it would likely be in the form of something like Ascension seals, where we're having to use a proxy. So assuming you have to, similar to Ascension seals, something you could buy with GOG and carry across. I did see a number of questions of like why parity with Web 2? Like, why don't we make some things that you can only buy via Web 3? And a lot of it does come to, just App Store compliance. The app stores are generally okay if there are things that players can go buy in the Web3 space, as long as there are Web 2 path for that. If we start shutting down the ability to buy things in Web 2, it just increases the chance that we get delisted. And the app stores are quite important to GOG overall. Imagine if you could reroll modifiers and stats on gear with GOG. Huge utility. That's an interesting thought. Again, like the biggest challenge there is in app. Obviously, if you've got gear that is NFTs, that opens up possibilities of having like an external blacksmith or running equipment through the altar to reroll it and things like that. No promises on this front, but an interesting thought. Please allow a backpack where we can use currency to expand the size to put crafting materials for space. I'll leave this as a suggestion for MindLoader. You potentially increasing the backpack size through Ruby purchases or something. All right, where are we at for time? I just need to look at my calendar really quick. Okay, I can stretch. Um, okay, we talked about this. Talked about this. Can we have preloaded teams with hero selections, levels, and gear? This is an interesting one. When it comes to, that challenge of uh, like switching between teams, obviously with the resets, we want this to be possible. Um, I don't think what we want though is, you know, just a single set of advancement that you swap between, 5 guardians at need. Um, if that was the world we were building towards, it almost doesn't make sense to have individual guardian levels if they're fully mutable. Making this easier though to switch though, or changing the system so that you can have multiples. I'm gonna take this one back to Leeway and the design team as just a quality of life like challenge. Auto combine merge on the crafting mechanics. So obviously this happens if you've got a board full of stuff. If you craft an NFT, it will automatically merge to, or not craft NFT, craft a piece of gear. It'll automatically merge them into the stuff you need. Using a similar systems to sort of clear the board when you want to save things up. Definitely plausible. It's something that the team is working at. Some of the difficulty around here comes with when you want to lock things. And yeah, just the number of inputs we have. Yeah, being able to split things means if you auto merge up, splitting back down. I'll take a note. Split back down. Just merge it all. But yeah, it's definitely on the radar as a quality life improvement. Yeah, when I talked about like quality of life improvements across UX, like one of the biggest ones for me is that little scroll bar when you're trying to open up, like 30 boxes of souls, whatever it is. It's really, really annoying. And something that needs to be easier. Loadouts again. Remove treasure rooms. Probably not. But on the quality of life front, we are looking at things like pop into the treasure room, it automatically opens up, and you move through. Would we remove them? Maybe. I don't think so, though. But definitely, eh, actually, it is an interesting point, like utility. In the overflow of a dungeon, like there is an important like component of having rooms that aren't just fights. Um, oh God, you're talking about the guy that knocks everybody up. DC Nanox? I don't know how to say your name. Yeah, he's annoying. Um, he is definitely annoying. What is the marketing plan to attract new players, and also what's the catch-up system for them? So yeah, in terms of marketing, the team is pulling through consistent cohorts of players across, the marketing we're doing. I continue to see ads on my various social media platforms. This is something that we're going to continue to refine, both for those ads and some of the partnerships that we're doing. But players are flowing through, and the important part is like each day the cohorts we're bringing in is letting us do strong A/B testing and learning from that, which is going to then let us further scale. Yeah, we heard about marketing, but I've seen none weeks after launch. I'm sorry, but like you don't get 600,000 downloads without marketing. So yes, the marketing is happening. It's moving through well. Like, can we scale this further? Absolutely. But some of it is like we want to further improve the game and get things through before we go absolutely ham. Some of it is it's a big math problem. Like at the end of the day, all this is of obviously we need to pull players in. What we need to do is get a positive return into the ecosystem from those players. This is complex because they contribute to the ecosystem through, Web 2 purchases, through Web 3 purchases, like people who don't buy from us directly, but purchase from other people on the marketplace still help us out. So just the analytics around that are still a challenge. But yeah, we're going to keep growing. We'll definitely pass 1 million downloads in the not too distant future. By the next town hall, maybe? It depends on a number of factors, but we're going to keep growing. Heroes should be sold in GOG tokens when team doesn't even want but we had already talked about this. It's a wash. Whether people when people buy with GOG, it doesn't actually add to the ecosystem. I agree that making it easier to buy with GOG, we'll see what happens in the next sale. It's definitely something on the table. Hero items coming out of shop early is very bad. I don't quite understand the question. This might be related to the Tamamo banner that never was supposed to be. That was very bad. I agree. All hero items should be in shop at all times. Simply put, no. This is something that we're going to cycle. Is it a potential solution to have all hero items available in the shop at all time? Yes, that's a path, but that's not the plan. It wouldn't be something where they would go away and never come back, but we do expect these to be sort of like episodic. In terms of like equipment, that would be NFTs. Like I think exclusive equipment being craftable by guilds is plausible, particularly with the need to target specific skills and the challenge of that right now. There are multiple ways to solve that problem, but all the time is not the plan at the moment. I hear the feedback though, and I understand why there's the ask for that. Changing any in-battle mechanics should require notes. Not so important for quality of life menu and UI stuff, which they talk about too much relative. This is something that yes and no. Like each new endless dungeon has a whole bunch of changes to mechanics, and we're not necessarily going to detail all of those every update. Some of that is just part of the gameplay of discovering those mechanics and playing through them and adjusting. Would it be better to include it all ahead of time in Theorycraft? Maybe. It's something I can talk to the MindLoader team about. It's also a lot of data and information, and getting that all combined weekly is extensive. I think the thing that I want to see in general when it comes to patch notes is if there's a meaningful change to Guardian balance, blah, 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 it's in the patch notes. Um, you know, with the mix of the Immutable team and MindLoader, getting that process fully ironed out so everything is captured is still a work in progress. We're going to get better. I think this week's patch notes is better than previous patch notes. But I can't guarantee that every change is always going to be communicated across yet. But yeah, getting there is a goal. Gacha game need waifus. Durizda, the only semi-waifu. I think that was actually some of the thought with Tamamo. Clearly did not hit it. I think there is a lot more on the Tamamo front that we need to line on internally before we communicate out more broadly. But yeah. Cool. And that is the list of the questions. I know chat has been scrolling and I can't do two things at the same time.
Yeah, there were a
Yeah.
lot of questions. Sorry, guys. Like I tried to keep up. It's just a lot. But hope this was super helpful. If you have more questions, I'm sure this isn't the last town hall we'll have. And if there are really, really burning questions, then like send them to me and I'll try to get it here. But I think we did a pretty good job having all the questions in the spreadsheet.
Yeah. And
Um, yeah.
thank you everybody for showing up. I know the town halls are a bunch of time, not just me, for everybody else. Really appreciate it. And yeah. we will see you again soon. Yeah, I think, Nigel, if people have AMA questions that I did not get to because they were coming through live, definitely drop them in the AMA channel on Discord, and we can start building out for the next one. And with
Yep.
that, I am going to sign off. Thank you so much, everybody, and we will catch you soon.
Thanks, Clay. Thanks, everybody. And yeah, wrong Max, that the auto-merge question was answered. The question, it was basically going to be looked into. Thanks, everybody. Again, appreciate the time. 100 plus of you guys joined. Really feeling the love on all the gamers out there. Looking forward to what happens next for GOG. Thanks, everybody. See you around. Ending the call now.